And joining me here is none other than Angelo Leo, the unbeaten super bantamweight, who's going to be facing Stephen Fulton Jr. for the WBO super bantamweight title in the main event of Showtime Boxing's return on August 1st from the Mohegan Sun Arena in Connecticut. Angelo Leo, thanks so much for taking time to talk to us. It's been a whirlwind 24 hours since the time of this recording. So how are you feeling, man, with everything that's been going on right now?
I'm feeling great. Just staying focused on my fight. I'm ready to win this world title August 1st.
You know, everything just seems to kind of have lined up for you for the last couple of months between Emmanuel Navarrete, the previous champion, fighting and then relinquishing his title to you being in the perfect position in the WBO rankings along with Stephen Fulton Jr., who is a name that has always been linked to you for out the year. It almost seems like it was destined that you two were going to meet in this type of environment for the world title on Showtime. Did it feel like you guys were on a collision course for this type of fight?
Yeah, of course. The Stephen Fulton is a fighter that me and my dad have been studying for a while, maybe like a year or two already. So everyone that's on TV in the 122-pound division, me and my dad were always studying them. We're always figuring out ways how to beat them and all that. So Fulton was in the mix, of course.
Before we kind of get into the fight per se, obviously you were a part of the virtual press conference that Showtime was holding yesterday, and so was Stephen. And I don't know if this was the very first time you've ever done a press conference in this manner, but how was it being able to kind of get back into a rhythm of things and the excitement of fight week and the promotion and everything that kind of goes along with preparing for a fight? Did it feel like things are now starting to kind of come back to normal when it comes to your career?
Yeah, of course, definitely. Besides all this quarantine and all that, it feels like a regular fight. It's a little different doing the interviews online, but at the end of the day, we're still gonna meet in the ring, so it doesn't really matter, and I'm ready to go.
So, it's kind of talking a little bit about the pandemic and everything. Obviously, a lot of fighters have had to adapt and adjust their training. Some fighters, they've kind of had their own gym, or they're in a good position where they could still train or do mostly everything that they could do. Some fighters have to really adjust and just drastically change how they train for a fight. What has been like for you training, not just for this fight, but also just staying in shape when it comes to making sure that you're ready for this type of fight?
Yeah, it's the same thing. We knew that we are gonna be fighting here pretty soon, probably in the summertime, even when this quarantine was happening. So I always stay busy. I always was doing my road work, hitting the bags, doing some sparring here and there. All that was going on through these quarantine times, and I just had to stay active and stay busy. Not get rusty at all, and that's exactly what we did. And when they called us to fight, we just bumped it up a few notches, and that's how it all went down.
Well, one thing that I do have to wonder a little bit was kind of how everything was just aligning up for you when you guys got the call. What was the timeline, sort of everything? Because I don't know if Navarrete really was planning all this time to be in to vacate the title around this time, if you were already preparing, like in the back of my mind, if things were already going to play out this way. What was what was kind of like the timeline of getting everything? Did you think that maybe you would had another fight or two before getting a title shot just based on everything that's been going on lately?
No. Before this quarantine times, they had mentioned Fulton as a potential fight for the summer, and we always knew that Fulton was in the mix for this summer. So, Fulton was always on our mind, and there wasn't really no tune-ups or anything like that. It was basically straight to this fight, and we didn't know if it was going to be for a world title or if it was going to be for an interim. But now we got news that it is for the WBO vacant junior featherweight title.
So now moving on to your opponent, Stephen Fulton Jr. What are your thoughts on Stephen? I think a lot of people obviously are very high on him. A lot of people are very high on you. But to me, it almost seems like you guys, in some way, shape, or form, your careers have sort of mirrored just a little bit. You guys have been getting up, going up the rankings as prospects, getting fights on TV, going up against guys who have either been at the world title level or have contended at the world title level. And now you guys are in this position, this exact same scenario, fighting for a world title, unbeaten contenders. What are your thoughts overall on Stephen Fulton Jr.?
Stephen is a fighter that really knows his style. He's got his style down pat, and he's got a good jab. He knows how to control the distance, but he's not unbeatable. You know, we've seen him in his last fights get dropped. He's been rocked before, and he's not untouchable. And I'm gonna exploit that August 1st.
So one thing that I think it's very interesting, not just from you, but from a lot of fighters who are under the Mayweather Promotions banner, is the interactions you guys have had with Floyd Mayweather. It almost seems like to me, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, obviously you have a lot more interactions with Floyd than probably I'll ever have in my life, but it all seems like Floyd recently, in recent months, has really embraced the mentor aspects and the trainer aspects of boxing at this stage of his post-fighting career. What's it been like getting to train with Mayweather and the whole team in general, and just being able to sort of absorb that knowledge and take in all that wisdom and all the years of experience that whole family has?
Yeah, you know, it's an honor to have Floyd in my corner. He's got great advice. He's been in the game for I don't know how long, 20 plus years, and he really knows how to break down a fighter, and he really knows how to get to him. He knows what style I need to fight him, and he's just a great asset in our corner for sure.
Have you felt kind of like you've improved, not just as a fighter inside the ring, but also in terms of handling yourself outside the ring? I mean, Floyd has kind of been through it all, ups and downs outside the ring. That were you able to kind of also take in some of the things that he's done outside the ring as far as promoting yourself as a fighter and learning from mistakes, for not just from his career, but from other people's career, and making sure that, you know, you're not just as well adjusted inside the ring, but also outside the ring?
Exactly. You know, I'm a person that likes to learn off of other people. So I know I learn by example. So if I see Floyd doing it, if I hear my dad tell me something, you know, I'm always listening with an open ear and always taking in as much knowledge as I possibly can.
So say you win this fight and you become the new WBO champion. You're now joining a very, very good class of champions. The other two being Murodjon Akhmadaliev and Ray Vargas, who hold the other three titles. And then there's also, obviously, Brandon Figueroa, who holds the secondary WBA title. Whether or not you want to count that or not, it's up to you. But yeah, I remember hearing that and seeing that you sparred with Murodjon a while back. What was that experience like, and how do you feel about how he's, you know, currently at right now as the unified WBA and IBF champion? And is that something that you would also like to explore, and you feel confident in your chances of beating him down the road?
Definitely. Any of the champions are not a question in the future. You know, I would like to fight Ray Vargas. I'd like to fight Murodjon, and eventually become undisputed in the division, because there's only there's 3 fighters I need to get past to become undisputed. And I feel like it's definitely possible. Murodjon is a fighter I've sparred in the past. It only went 1 round, but I kind of got the gist of what he likes to do. So that'd be a great fight, I think, in the future, definitely.
So kind of now moving on, you know, a little bit outside of the in-ring stuff. I remember watching I think it was an Instagram live thing you did with Leonard Ellerbe, and one thing that sort of surprised me in a great way was that you liked art, and and I remember you talking about you had a sketchbook and everything, and you drew people, different fighters, and I was surprised. Not many fighters I've interviewed have that kind of interest, but it's certainly, but just kind of tell me a little bit more about your love for art and drawing.
My love for art goes way before boxing. You know, I started my art. I started drawing around 5 or 6 years old, and from there, you know, I just kept sketching, drawing people, and then eventually I got into boxing, and then boxing really took up my passion, took up all my time. So I wasn't really able to draw as much, but you know, drawing is always in my heart for sure. You know, I've been drawing here and there. I actually just picked up a pencil the other day and started drawing again. So, you know, it's still there. I still got it. I just gotta refine and take off the rust.
It would have been safe to assume that maybe if boxing wasn't the thing that took hold of your life and your professional career, would art have been involved in some way, shape, or form at this point in your life?
Definitely. I think if it wasn't for boxing, I'd probably be some type of artist. I don't know what type of artist, but it'd definitely be some type of art because I'm really creative.
I definitely love to see some of that art down the road. But one thing that I also in that interview with Leonard was you were talking about Nonito Donaire being a fighter that you really looked up to when you were growing up, and obviously aside from your fight and a million other great fights that were announced by Showtime and PBC, was Nonito Donaire fighting Nordine Oubaali for the WBC bantamweight title in December at the end of the year. What are your thoughts on Nonito and that potential fight, and just this career resurgence that he's kind of had coming off the absolutely tremendous fight with Naoya Inoue last year?
Yeah, I think to tell you the truth, I haven't really seen Nordine fight. I think I seen him fight once against who was it? Warren.
Yeah, Rasheed Warren.
Yeah, Rasheed Warren. It was against Rasheed Warren, and I know he had beat him decisively. But you know, Nonito, I've been watching Nonito ever since I was in high school, and I always looked up to Nonito. And I've actually sparred him before. He's a good person, and I'm definitely pulling for Nonito this fight. I feel like he deserves this shot, and I think he'll pull it off.
That certainly would be a very interesting fight. And there's a part of me that also roots for Nonito. He is class personified, one of the absolutely best people in boxing today. Just a couple of more things before I let you go. I know you've heard right now at this point ad nauseum the whole, you're from Albuquerque, New Mexico, and that town hasn't had a world champion since Johnny Tapia, if I remember correctly. But one thing that I was actually very curious when I was looking at your at your record on BoxRec was that you had your pro debut in Albuquerque in 2012, I believe. And it was at a boxing card promoted by Johnny Tapia's wife, Teresa. So just kind of wanted to get your thoughts on what your pro debut, kind of like what you remembered about it, anything like unusual or any funny stories from it, your thoughts heading into your very first pro fight back then.
That fight was actually my pro debut was one of my toughest fights in my career, I'd have to say.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, but that was probably one of my toughest ones for sure against Xavier Pacheco. And I wasn't like any other fighter who was got fed scraps for their first fight. I wouldn't say scraps because there's no such thing as scraps but easier fights. I got thrown to the wolves right away in my pro debut, so that was a tough fight for me. But I got through it, and those are the types of fights that made me who I am today. So ever since since my pro debut, I've been conditioned for these type of fights. To be under pressure, to stay calm under the bright lights.
Did you had any much of any interactions you've had with Johnny before he unfortunately passed away way too soon?
Yeah, I've met him actually a few times. Um, his son used to train with my trainer Luis Chavez, and he would always come into the gym and all that. And he was a really good guy, very charismatic. He always taking pictures with the kids and all that, and overall good guy.
Obviously, you are in this position fighting for a world title. What would it mean to you at this stage of your career to finally get the opportunity and also win the world title on Showtime on I guess you can say a historic setting, with this being Showtime's first show back since the quarantine just kind of shut down everything. Just overall, your thoughts on what would it mean to you to win the world title under these specific circumstances?
It'd mean a lot. It's not what I imagined or not what I dreamt of when I was a younger kid and all that. But it is a world title. It is a world title fight. A fight's a fight, and it'd be the world. It mean the world to me. To have that name as a world champion. That's always what I've been trying to accomplish. And August 1st is that time. Is that time I do it.
Great stuff, Angelo. Thank you so much. Lastly, any bold predictions ahead of your fight against Stephen Fulton on August 1st?
Just tune in, just tune in. This fight probably not go the distance for sure. It's going to be a good fight. It's going to be all fireworks.
There you have it. Not going to go the distance, all fireworks. Great stuff, Angelo. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. Best of luck on August 1st. And I'm so grateful that boxing's back and Showtime's boxing's back with this tremendous schedule. Looking forward to seeing you in the ring next week.
Of course. Thank you, Carlos.